the outset, I would like to thank Unni and Manoj for this wonderful conference. So subretinal fluid is the good one, and the intraretinal fluid or the sub-RPE fluid is supposed to be bad. So you need to be a little tolerant to fluid, like you have to be tolerant in life. So I'm going to be defending my case based on two things: my own experience and also the review of literature. So this is a 65-year-old female patient who presents with metamorphopsia in the right eye. Her vision is 6/9 You see there's an occult CNVM in the right eye. There are drusen's in the left eye. This is her fundus fluorescein angiography of the right eye, which confirms the same. You have drusen's in the left eye. She presents with a pocket of subretinal fluid, though it's primarily juxtafoveal, but there is a thin film going subfoveally, and you have drusenoid PEDs in the left eye. We go ahead and we treat her with a loading dose of 3 injections, and she has a completely dry macula and her vision improves to 6/6 The patient is now on a monthly regular follow-up, and 6 months later she comes back with a recurrence with a reappearance of the subretinal fluid, and her vision again drops by 1 line. We go ahead, again give her 4 injections of Lucentis with the hope that the fluid will dry out, but she still has a persistence of a small pocket of the fluid, and now we decide to observe because she is also quite reluctant to continue with the injections. We have a follow-up now of literally 1.5 years of this patient. She continues to maintain a vision of 6/6. The small pocket is still persisting, but the patient is quite happy and asymptomatic. Now, the fluid study, I think we cannot contradict what is written in this. We have 2-year results, which very beautifully shows how tolerant we can be to the subretinal fluid. So there were 2 regimens Jatinder has already described. The first one was the intensive one, where you were not tolerant to any kind of the intraretinal fluid or subretinal fluid, while the relaxed regimen, where you could be actually a little tolerant to the subretinal fluid less than 200 microns. And the results, they showed that there was hardly any difference. There was 3 letters in the intensive group and 2.6 letters in the relaxed group as far as the change in the BCVA was concerned at 2 years. There was a similar proportion again in both the groups, the patients who gained better than 20/40 and who lost or who were worse than 20/200. But what is important is that more participants in the relaxed group extended and maintained a 3 months treatment interval than in comparison to the intensive group. And this beautifully showed that the relaxed group was non-inferior to the intensive treatment group. The CAT trial, again, the 2-year results showed that there was no significant change in the mean visual acuity for eyes with no fluid or foveal fluid from week 52 to 104. But paradoxically, it also showed that the presence of SRF was associated with better visual acuity at year 2, and it was greater in those patients who had some amount of subfoveal SRF. The consequences of running after the SRF is that you would land up giving more injections, and that could actually lead to more systemic complications and accelerated macular atrophy, and resulting in finally a decrease of visual acuity. A subgroup analysis again showed the same, that SRF greater than 25 microns actually had a protective role against a geographic atrophy development. 7-UP study, again Sada already described it. There was a 7-year observational update of macular degeneration patients post Marina, Anchor and Horizon. This again showed the same thing, that the risk of geographic atrophy was much higher in those patients who were made to be completely dry. The post hoc analysis of View 1 and View 2 studies again showed that the patients with SRF achieved 2.1 more letters at 1 year compared to patients with intraretinal fluid or PED at baseline, regardless of the drugs which were used in these patients. Mont Blanc study again showed that the SRF had no effect on the visual gain, and intraretinal cysts alone or combined with PED or SRF had poor visual outcomes. And there are several, so many more studies which echo the same. We have this study which showed that the outer retinal layers in patients presenting with subfoveal SRF are less disrupted than in patients with IRF involving the fovea. This is another study by Bhauser. The mean duration of persistent SRF was 5.2 years with long-term visual acuities 20/40 or better. So to conclude, the residual SRF may not present an ongoing neovascular activity, but rather a residual anatomical space created by the failure of the neurosensory retina to reattach to the RPE as a consequence of neovascular AMD. And the OCTA now shows very beautifully that quiescent CNVM can be existent with small asymptomatic SRF which don't require any kind of treatment. IRF should surely be treated aggressively until stable. However, we may be a little tolerant to a degree of persistent SRF with minimal negative effect on the final vision. And eyes with SRF actually have a better visual acuity than those without a fluid, as it may protect from atrophy. Thank you so much.